Hello dear viewers, a warm welcome to this edition of the News in English with me, Serge Nhore. We'll begin with the headlines as always. President Paul Kagame has received top African Union officials ahead of the retreat of the African Union Permanent Representatives Committee taking place in Kigali starting on Thursday. His Excellency Paul Kagame has officiated at the swearing-in ceremony of newly appointed officials in Rwanda's security organs. Survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi have denounced the decision of the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals to halt the trial of the chief financier of the fastest genocide in recorded human history, Felicie Kabuga, calling it a form of genocide denial. Thank you again for taking the time to join us for this edition of the news. And now let us take a look at the details. President Paul Kagame has received His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Monique Sanzabaganwa, the deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission, and Professor Pierre Mukoko Mbojo, head of the AU Institutional Reforms Unit, for a discussion on the progress of the AU institutional reforms ahead of the retreat of the African Union Permanent Representatives Committee taking place in Kigali starting on Thursday. Now, staying at Village Urugwiro, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Kagame, has asked all leaders to be characterized by good performance and bear in mind that they have a heavy responsibility to deliver the best to the country and Rwandans. The head of state made this statement on Wednesday when he received the oath of office from newly appointed leaders. Jessica Gassaro with more.
Those who deliver their oath to President Paul Kagame are the Minister of Defense Juvenal Marizamunda, Chief of Defense Staff Lieutenant General Mubaraka Muganga, the Army Chief of Staff Major General Vincent Nyakarundi, and the Commissioner General of Rwanda Correctional Service Brigadier Evariste Murenzi. The head of state thanked them, reminding them that their sworn duty is to serve Rwanda and Rwandans.
Mbanze nshimira abamaze kurahira kubera ko
First of all, I would like to thank those who have taken the oath. They have accepted new responsibilities. Since they already had other responsibilities, these responsibilities have changed, but the same purpose is to serve our country, no matter the institutions. I want to say that it is not new anymore. Since you are leaders, and now you have gone from one place to another, or from one level to another. That is why I say it is a normal thing.
President Paul Kagame also emphasized the solemnity of the responsibility that the leaders have for their country's expectation, asking them to complement each other to achieve this.
It means that wherever a person goes or where he is, the work is done as much as possible and done well. We understand the responsibility of those duties because almost everything of what we are doing is for the country and Rwandans. Through the form of cooperation, people in the same or different sectors should cooperate and complement each other for the sake of the country itself, so that what is expected of leaders is delivered.
Minister of Defense Juvenal Marizamunda was previously the Commissioner General of Rwanda Correctional Service, responsibilities that will now be carried out by Brigadier General Evariste Murenzi. It is while the new Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Mubaraka Muganga, had been serving as the Army Chief of Staff, a position that will now be held by the Major General Vincent Nyakarundi. Jessica Gassaro, RwandaTV News.
The administration of Gisenyi Hospital, taking care of people relocated to camps after the tragic heavy rainfalls of May, say at least 6 people suffering from trauma as part of the aftermath of the natural disasters are received daily at the hospital. But they do add that they are taking care of them and they are improving. We have the details with Prince Manzi.
In Rugerero sector, Rubavu district, Lucia Ngabire shows the journalist where her family resided before the May 2nd and 3rd disasters. Her house was destructed and her husband, alongside 3 of her 6 children, perished. This was heavy for Lucia to suddenly lose 4 family members at once, and in addition is the survival of the family that succeeded through partnering with her husband.
The eldest had 20 years, the other had 6 and 4 years. You work hard sometimes, but having a partner is always a motivation.
Same with other various people with the same issue, she was relocated to a safer region. She states that she was facilitated in returning to her normal life, but she's concerned with how she'll be able to provide for the 3 children survived.
I had a husband who worked hard. We own our own house. He paid for the health insurance. In schools, one is in senior 3, the other in senior 2, the last in primary 4. All these are my concern, no longer the husband's, which is something very hard.
The Director General of the Gisenyi Hospital, Oreste Tuganeyezu, elaborates that in the health services provided at camps include trauma-related, as some of the people they receive lost their relatives and properties.
Some
of them had a higher level of trauma, and we are still following up on them, with an exception of those who lost their relatives. Some of them also lost their properties and are concerned with how they are currently living. On a daily basis, we have experts who perform 2 major actions, including following up on those who had issues as well as those who can be affected here, and also supporting and helping them. At least in 150 people we receive, 4 to 5 people have these issues. Currently, 599 families composed of 2,102 people are residing in the Nyemera Mihigo camp in Rugerero sector, Rubavu district, and slowly by slowly, some are being facilitated to rent outside the camp but not in high-risk zones. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Now, as we noted in the headline, survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi have denounced the decision of the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals to halt the trial of the chief financier of the fastest genocide in recorded human history, Felicie Kabuga, calling it a form of genocide denial. Prince Manzi has the details on that.
News on the ruling of the genocide against the Tutsi financier, Felicie Kabuga's trial, wreaked havoc earlier on Wednesday. Genocide survivors state that this decision is considered as injustice. Personally, I have not accepted the decision, nor will I be able to accept it, because I consider it as a form of denial and also adding salt to the wounds of the survivors. He is supposed to be tried for what he did, and if they are unable to do it, they better give him to us, and the Rwandans try him. This decision is taken, yet the Umbrella Association for Genocide Survivors Organizations in Rwanda, Ibuka, has raised the case of funds to be paid by Kabuga. Law Commissioner in Ibuka, Janvier Bayingana, states that Ibuka will make a move after this decision. We took it negatively. If truly the IRMCT is in charge of providing justice as demonstrated in its mandate, it is useless to Rwandans as well as the international community. What's next is that we are going to follow up on the international laws and civil laws for the trial to be continued. We cannot give up. Nevertheless, the law expert Faustin Murangwa demonstrates that even if the court decided to not continue with the Felicien Kabuga's trial, it does not mean that he will not be charged for genocide crimes and crimes against humanity.
victime ku rubanza rwe cyane cyane aba victime barokotse genocide yakorewe abatutsi.
The genocide survivors should not take it as some did, because most thought that it is a mental disorder. But this is something that should not stop the trial, but instead, it changes the means of the trial in consideration of his health. Felicien Kabuga, 88 years old, was arrested on the 16th of May 2020 in the suburbs of Paris, France, evading justice for 26 years. He is a genocide financier and one of the founders of the RTRM radio station, which openly broadcasted hatred. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince, for that report. Now to other matters. During the General Assembly of the city of Kigali, officials on Wednesday, leaders at various levels were reminded that taking care of the people and providing them with good services should be their goal, or at whatever level of leadership they serve. Jessica Gasaro with more.
The Rwanda Governance Board shows that in the image of how the people see the management and service in the city of Kigali, there are things that the people have shown that hinders them. Dr. Usta Kaitesi is the CEO of RGB. More than 40% say that we misrepresent them when they come to us for services. In addition to misinterpretation, there are reasons for being mistreated, especially corruption, which means that corruption is an obstacle to providing good service at the local level. For example, it is 55% in the Gasabo district, 41% in Kichukiro, 47% in Nyarugenge. In these discussions, they examined the image of the people's health and took measures aimed at the development and well-being of the residents of the Kigali city. Some of the participants also found that there are things that should be improved. You have a land and you want to build a house in it. They ask you to build 2 levels house or a building or many houses, yet your land can't even accommodate 2 houses. Kindly explain to us so that we know what to tell to the people.
We have heard of the disasters in other provinces. If we are not careful, it will come to us in Kigali as well. Climate change is a problem. When it rains, we decided to dig some hole. And this is why it's not good we might find ourselves in Nyabugogo. The funds not used 250 million in World Bank, and this amount would have solved one part of the city so that we can put all the garbage in one place. We need to make study and remove water in the people's houses, and we could provide the way of water to one place. If we don't do this study and the disasters affect us, it will be a problem.
The city of Kigali says that the time it took for a citizen to get services related to the land went from about 90 days to 28. However, the Minister of Local Government, Musabyimana Jean-Claude, said that those days are still too many and should be reduced. He reminded leaders at the different levels that development that does not put the people first has already lost its direction.
tumenye ko imibereho y'abatuye umujyi wa Kigali igomba kuza ku isonga.
In the government's program, our priority is the good life of our citizens. We need a good life, a priority, where we know that those who live in rural areas in Kigali, how they're building their houses or renewing them. If I do it following how the system is, there's no law that supports that. So this should be fixed. And that is why I invite the leaders of South to come and say their problems. Because the place where they haven't put a physical plan wanted to build there. This is a serious problem, but we have to face it and solve it.
Turabigenza dute uyu munsi ni ikibazo tugomba gukemura kirakomeye ariko tugomba kugikemura tukakireba mu maso.
In order to improve the way services are given, the Ministry of Local Government say that within 2 years, every cell in the city of Kigali should have a place to work properly. Jessica Gasaro, RwandaTV News.
Now for our final report before we take a short break. Officials and employees of the Ministries of Local Government and Interior have held a commemoration event to remember and honor the former employees killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. We have the details with Prince Manzi.
On Wednesday, there was a commemoration of former employees of what used to be the ministries of local government, interior, public service and labor, also named Mininter, Minifop, and Minitraso, perpetrated in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. In her testimony, Anosia Tanzamkosha demonstrated how her husband, Paul Segikwiye, who was a Minitraso employee, was discriminated and expelled from work, massacred, and his family was tortured.
Yakoraga muri Minitraso, muri projet yakoreragamo.
He worked in Minitras. In 1990, he worked in Electrogas, and it is where he worked many years. But he was also tortured there, and most of the Tutsi were jailed. But my husband was not jailed, instead expelled. And luckily, he got an opportunity at Minitraso. Arriving there were people who knew him, and he was tortured as well.
The Ministry of Local Government, Jean-Claude Musabyimana, criticized officials and employees of these ministries who participated in the genocide against the Tutsi.
Mu gihe twibuka abo bakozi turazirikana ko hari abayobozi bishe abakozi bakoreshaga.
As we commemorate these employees, we put into consideration that there were leaders who killed their employees, and there were employees who killed their leaders. This demonstrates the level of hatred that was present at the working areas. Normally, at work, people had to be joined by various responsibilities, but in that time, it was different.
Bakaba umwe kugira ngo bakore bubaka igihugu. Kiriya giheho akazi kari karabaye intebe y'urwango.
Minister Musabyimana reiterates that it is shameful, for it has been 29 years since the liberation, and some of the victims are not yet buried, hence urging those having information to provide them as it contributes towards unity and reconciliation.
Uyu munsi turacyabona hirya no hino ahantu hakiri imibiri myinshi.
We still found across the country bodies of the genocide victims not yet buried. In the past week, we buried around 1,200 bodies found at the Mibirizi parish. From here on, I am requesting people with information on where bodies are to provide them, because it facilitates in easing the sorrow of the survivors. And I also believe that it eases the perpetrators, as it is a secret that should not be kept. Currently, 25 employees who served the three ministries are known to have been perpetrated in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. In the event, a wreath-laying ceremony was conducted to pay tribute to these victims. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Well, that's the end of the news. I hope you're having a great week. Stay with us here on Rwanda Television for more programs. Goodbye.